We about to make some homemade garlic parmesan wings and some homemade pizza as I finish telling y'all this story. Now Capri is in jail and her best friend Dakota got to put up her hair salon for Collateral to bond her out. And that's when things really started unfolding. Because soon as Capri got out of jail, she was trying to get a hold of their best friend Nola so Nola could convince her husband Mike to stop snitching on her. Because see, the police really didn't have no information on Capri. The only evidence they had was Mike's statement. But it was too late. She couldn't get a hold of Nola. Because see, when Capri was locked up, Mike was busy covering his tracks. See, Mike had convinced Nola that Capri really was the mastermind of this credit card fraud. And he also convinced Sage to give him the $20,000 to keep their daughter a secret. And Sage agreed only if Mike signed away his rights to their daughter. And of course, Mike signed away his rights right away. And when Mike got that money, he convinced Nola that his big business deal finally went through and he got a place to stay in Atlanta, and also convinced Nola to move back to Atlanta so that they can work on their marriage and be a family again. So Nola is not even in Miami anymore. She's in Atlanta with Mike. Now, once Nola got back to Atlanta, she stopped talking to her friends. Because see, Mike really convinced her that Capri was the mastermind of all this scamming. So she was mad at Capri for getting her husband caught up in all this scamming that was going on. And then she was mad at Dakota for putting up her salon to bug Capri out of jail. And she was definitely mad at Sage for being Capri loyal. So really, Mike just had her brainwashed at this point. And not only was Nola upset with her friends, she was ashamed. Because let's be real, $20,000 is not a lot of money. By the time Nola got back to Atlanta, that money was gone. And not to mention, Mike was up to his old tricks again. He was strung out on drugs. So Nola was ashamed that she went back to a man that was doing the same thing he was doing before, and she was living a life of poverty. But then, one day out the blue, Nola mama calls her. And she say, baby, how you doing? And Nola say, mama, I'm doing good. Her mama say, baby, stop lying. I can hear it in your voice. But at the end of the day, I'm glad you went back with your husband and you ain't getting caught up in all this mess your friends got going on. And that's when Nola said, mama, what mess? Because Nola never told her mama everything that was going on. And so her mama said, they all in that lady's shop. What's her name? Dakota? Yeah, they all in her shop, girl. And she said, what's your other friend name? Sage? Yeah, that lady? Well, they arrested her too because she's sending criminals money. I guess she helping out all the criminals now. Baby, I'm so glad your husband came and got you. You stay in Atlanta with your husband, you hear me? And that's when Nola said, hold on, mama, I'll call you back. Now, as soon as Nola mama told her that, she tried to call Sage, but Sage ain't answer. Then she tried to call Dakota, and Dakota ain't answer. She even broke down and tried to call Capri, but Capri ain't answer. After that, she called the one person that she knew would answer, Marco. Now, when Nola called Marco, of course he answered. As soon as he answered, Nola said, why isn't nobody answering my calls? I've been calling everybody. I'm trying to see what's going on. And that's what Marco told her. Of course nobody's gonna answer your call. Because while you living your best life in Atlanta with Mike, he's destroying everybody's life here in Miami. And that's when Nola said, what you mean? At the end of the day, Capri got my husband caught up in all this mess. And y'all need to leave my husband up out of this. And that's when Marco said, baby, have you ever heard of that saying that you can't save nobody, you gotta save yourself? Well, here I am to help you save yourself. And that's when Marco told Nola everything. See, apparently, when Sage gave Mike that $20,000, that started the feds to investigate. Because the feds wanted to know, why is there a high-paid lawyer paying a criminal $20,000? And when Dakota used her salon to bond Capri out of jail, now the feds wanted to know, why is a lady that has a successful hair salon business using it to bond a criminal out of jail? And of course, when they asked Mike, he went along with everything they were saying. And when Marco told Nola that, he realized he messed up. Because when he told Nola that, Nola said, hold on, wait. Why did Sage give Mike $20,000? And that's when Marco told her everything. And I do mean everything. He said, I'm sorry to say this, but Mike is the father of Sage's 10-year-old daughter. And that's why me and Sage is really getting a divorce. Nola couldn't believe it. She starts crying. She starts screaming, no, no, no. And she said, Marco, I'll call you back. She hung up the phone and she just couldn't believe it. She couldn't stop crying. She couldn't stop sobbing. And then she thought of one person she could call to calm her down, her mom. And that's when Nola called her mom and told her mom everything that was going on from the beginning to the very end. And her mom listened to her daughter tell her how she's been struggling with a man who's been not only ruining her life, but also ruining her friend's life. And that's what her mama told her. She said, baby, I'm not here to tell you that how you feel is not wrong. And she said, I'm definitely not here to tell you that those ladies are your real friends, because that's something that only you can decide. But what I am here to tell you is you and every single one of those women has been a victim of that man. Now I'm going to get you a plane ticket, and I want you and my grandbabies to get on that plane. You hear me? And I ain't getting off this phone until you on that plane. And so Nola did just that. She got on that plane. So when Nola finally gets to her mom's house in Miami, she immediately tells her mom, hey mom, I need you to watch the kids because I need to call Mike and let him know that I know about his secret baby. I know about everything that's been going on. I really need to confront him so I can get my power back. And that's when her mama said, baby, don't you say a word. Don't you confront that man with your words. You confront that man with your actions. Because the best thing a woman can do when she has been betrayed is to move in silence and move strategically. So you call Mike, but you don't tell him nothing. That's how you get your power back. And that's how your friends are going to get their power back. You hear me? And Nola did exactly that. She called Mike and she told Mike that she was in Miami with her family because she realized that he strung out on drugs again. And she was going to give him enough time to think what he wanted to do. Either he wanted his family or he wanted drugs. But either way it go, he had time enough to decide. And as soon as she hung up the phone with Mike, she immediately called Marco. And she let Marco know that she's in town and she needs to meet up with all the ladies. And Marco said, yes, that's the Nola I know. Tell me what place and time and I'll make sure they're there. Episode 3 is dropping Monday at 6 p.m. I'll see y'all there.